faking insurrection and peace in the Middle East. Or is it? It's 5 and 10 from Skywatch TV. 5 things you need to know in about 10 minutes for Friday, October 10th, 2025. I'm Derek Gilbert. If you want to keep up with the news through the weekend, please subscribe to our channel on Telegram. You'll find us there. If you've got the Telegram app, just search for the 5 and 10 channel. Or if you don't, just go to t.me/5 and 10. You can also follow us on X. Our handle there is at 5_in_10. Item number 5 this week. Gaza. President Trump announcing a peace deal between Israel and Hamas Wednesday night from the White House. He's expected to make a quick trip to Israel on Sunday. He may only be on the ground for 8 hours, but he's expected to address the Knesset there. President Trump says he believes the hostages in Gaza should be returned to Israel Monday or Tuesday. Now, they're being exchanged for some 2,500 Palestinians who are being held in Israeli prisons. It's understandable that many Israelis are celebrating. There's a sense of joy and relief in the country. Almost everyone in Israel knows someone who's been personally impacted by this war over the last 2 years, but not everyone is celebrating. In fact, Benjamin Netanyahu's brother-in-law, Dr. Haggai Ben-Artzi, said in an interview Thursday that we, with our own hands, are signing the next kidnapping, the next massacre, and the next murders. Now, here's what he means by that. Back in 2011, a corporal in the IDF, Gilad Shalit, was exchanged by Hamas for 1,027 Palestinian prisoners who were being held in Israel. This was after 5 years Corporal Shalit was in captivity. Among the 280 Palestinians serving life sentences who were returned was Yahya Sinwar, who's the man who planned the October 7th massacre. So that's what Dr. Ben-Artzi he means, that as long as there is any semblance of Hamas remaining, returning these dangerous prisoners from Israeli incarceration means at some point down the road, there will be another October 7th. Look, already there are pro-Palestinian protesters here in the West calling for another October 7th type attack. And on the streets of Gaza Wednesday night, video was shot of people chanting, Khaybar, Khaybar, Ya Yahud. That's a phrase that refers to the Battle of Khaybar in the year 628 AD, when Muhammad led a Muslim army and destroyed the Jewish settlement of Khaybar near Medina in Arabia. The rest of that phrase, when you translate it from Arabic, it means, Khaybar, Khaybar, O Jews, the army of Muhammad will return. That doesn't sound peaceful to me. Item number 4, naming Antifa. Told you this week about President Trump's National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, or NSPM 7, that named Antifa a domestic terror organization. The media seized on that. They're now just beginning to pick up on the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. For the first time in years, the president getting specific about naming threats to domestic security and calling out the anti-fascist lie. In other words, defining basic American principles like border security and support for law enforcement as fascist to justify violent revolution. President Trump saying, nah, we're not having that anymore. And directing departments under his jurisdiction, like Treasury and Justice, to do something about it. Now, Democrats are responding. Democratic Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon saying on Tuesday that the Trump administration faked what appears to be insurrection in Portland in order to justify the Insurrection Act. He said, and I quote, that this is the first time I know in at least my lifetime that federal government has faked a riot in order to try and justify, if you will, the Insurrection Act being invoked, end quote. He's got selective memory. Remember, we mentioned last week the 274 undercover FBI agents, armed undercover FBI agents, who were in the crowd at the Capitol on January 6th of 2021. Federal government faking a riot to justify insurrection. Does he really think Portland was a peaceful place until President Trump decided to meddle? Portland's been burning for 5 years. Meanwhile, Chicago's Mayor Brandon Johnson says he's defending humanity by resisting the Trump administration's efforts to restore law and order by sending in federal law enforcement and the National Guard. Johnson declared the establishment of ICE-free zones just one day after we learned that city police waved off police that were responding to a vehicle ramming attack on Border Patrol agents over the weekend. I talked to local law enforcement here in the Ozarks who was outraged. He said, we take an oath. We take an oath. Whoever made that call in Chicago, that is unacceptable. Item number 3 today, AI crash. This week, the Bank of England sounded the alarm, warning of the intensifying risk of a sudden correction in global financial markets because of the spending frenzy on investing in AI. Analysts are finding that the AI bubble is 17 times larger, the dot-com era bubble 4 times larger than the 2008 mortgage crisis. You might remember that one. That was the one they said almost collapsed the global financial system. We had to bail out the bankers because the banks were too big to fail. Okay, multiply that by 4, and that's where we are right now with artificial intelligence. The concern here is that AI companies are struggling to make enough money to cover their expenses, much less turn a profit. And there's some question as to whether they may ever be able to do so. And according to some recent estimates, generative AI accounts for 40% of the gross domestic product of the United States of America. In other words, if the spending boom on AI falls apart, the American economy goes, and as the U.S. economy goes, so goes planet Earth. Get out of debt if you can. Item number 2 this week, weaponizing the FBI. One of the big stories that is not getting enough attention is the way former special counsel Jack Smith, who was tasked with trying to tag President Trump with something, anything, to keep him out of the White House in 2024, 2025. He used the FBI to spy on half a dozen Republican lawmakers as part of his investigation. This document was released by Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley of Iowa on Monday, showed that lawmakers are being investigated as part of the investigation into the January 6th riot. The senators who were spied upon by the FBI include Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, Josh Hawley of Missouri, Dan Sullivan of Alaska, Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, Cynthia Loomis of Wyoming, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. What's the thing connecting all of them? They're all Republicans. What are the odds? This one-page file created in the wake of Smith's Arctic frost investigation, which probed the J6 riot and the election interference claims. This file, released by Senator Grassley, sheds light on how the FBI conducted its investigation and used phone records to track sitting lawmakers. This is not supposed to happen in these United States. This investigation also looked into more than 100 Republican-linked groups, as we mentioned, including Turning Point USA, which was the organization founded and headed by the late Charlie Kirk, which also, as we told you this week, is expanding at an explosive rate over the last month. Coming up, good news, Italians, Columbus is back. We'll explain next on 5 and 10.
Pedophiles and groomers are more likely to find your child through the use of social media apps, and they'll start a process called grooming.
It's a word that you've heard a lot over the last decade. Groomers exploit foster children in particular because they have a series of attributes that these human traffickers and groomers are looking for.
Most of how human trafficking begins is actually through social media.
They're looking for young people that have a history of running away, so when nobody knows where they've gone, nobody's looking.
because they have a history of running away.
Some of the common misconceptions of human trafficking and child abuse, these are all just overseas cartels that show up with white vans and abduct women in the middle of the night.
They're looking for young people with suicidal thoughts or have had adverse childhood experiences. Hello.
They will groom these children by using often fictitious photographs or personas, or pretend to be a sugar daddy.
Pay attention if young girls without money come home with pedicures. Where were you? Oh, no, boyfriend, he's taking good care of me.
The parents don't even ask how this has happened, but it's because they've met up in the middle of the day with someone looking for love who is uncomfortable with being maybe moderately older than what is legally allowed, but I'm gentle.
The number one thing that you can do to make sure that one of your children does not become one of these children is to be present and to be very visible. None of this stuff where your little kids are doing the tricky little selfies and they're on social media and you have no idea who they're talking about.
And slowly over time that becomes, to say toxic is the understatement of the century. It becomes basically a handler/slave type relationship where the children are abducted and eventually not permitted to go home and forced here in the country into forced prostitution at the behest or the handling of a John or someone that's controlling their schedule.
Item number one to close out the week. Sometimes you can tell President Trump is just having way too much fun in the White House. On Thursday, signed an executive order restoring Columbus Day. After years of being told we could not celebrate the European man who discovered the Americas, he is now back. And Columbus Day will be celebrated on Monday as we did when we were kids. He actually made the press applaud when he announced it, when that made him smile. President Trump, I think, surprised that the media would applaud anything that he does. But he said, and I quote, "In other words, we're calling it Columbus Day. We're back, Italians." Again, it's sometimes just fun to watch what's going on inside that Oval Office. This week on Skywatch TV, we've got some heartwarming stories of how lives were changed and how your support made it happen. We're talking about the work at Whispering Ponies Ranch this summer. Joe Artis Horn and the staff from the ranch giving updates on how lives were changed and again, how, well, really the Lord made it possible. If you followed us for any length of time, you know that camps were canceled last year at the last minute because of circumstances outside our control. The Lord intervened this year, resolved that situation, and again, your support helped to finance the camps for our partner ministries who bring in children in foster care, children who statistically are at the highest risk for being trafficked, being abused, turning to drugs, gangs, many other self-destructive behaviors. And yet, through the intervention at this time in their lives, and with the camp available to these ministries at no cost because of your support, lives are being changed and generations' future are being changed. Don't miss these programs. You can watch them right now at our website, skywatchtv.com. You can also catch it over the air. Our broadcast schedule is posted at skywatchtv.com/channels. Now, you can catch this week's program and go back through the archives on your big screen just by adding the Skywatch TV channel to your set-top box or smart TV, Google TV, Android TV, Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV. We've got apps for all of those. Go to their app store, add it to your smart TV or set-top box, and then all of our video content will be available to you right there on the big screen. We're on the internet as well, youtube.com/@Skywatch Television. Please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit the like button, leave your comments. Do the same at Rumble as well, rumble.com/Skywatch TV, or download our free mobile app to your smartphone or tablet, whether it's iOS, Android, or Amazon Kindle Fire. We have apps for all of those, and links to their app stores at skywatchtv.com/app. 5 in 10 online, you'll find us on YouTube at 5 in 10. Please subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, hit the like button. Leave your comments below the programs. You'll also find us on X at 5_in_10, and of course the 5 in 10 channel on Telegram. Have a blessed weekend, and until Columbus Day, thank you for watching as we keep watch. I'm Derek Gilbert. This is 5 in 10 from Skywatch TV.